Hello, we're back.
Hello now.
Welcome to Liminal Writing, where Lee and me, Cess, go into this exercise of wild mind writing, free
Mhm.
flow writing, using trigger phrases that we pick up from different sources, whether it's books or a quote or something we read somewhere on a wall.
Yeah.
And then we agree to write about it for 10 minutes. And we shall read them to you, whatever it was that has come out. And we will do a bit of discussion and processing. So join us. What are we doing today, Lee?
I thought for today we could write about the joy of our five senses. So, how about I start?
Okay.
Okay, cool. So the trigger phrase for this is the joy of the five senses. For how will we experience this beauty of a world but through the five senses and the mysterious sixth? The eyes to watch how others love and grapple with loss and triumph against the blows to the heart and ego. The ears to listen to elders narrate the light and shadows of a life well lived and the regret of things left undone. The nose to smell the memories of people, places passed by choice and by chance. The skin to feel the gentle brush of a lover's eyelash against my cheek, the warmth of the present, and the press against the unknown tomorrows. The tongue, to which the work of loving and offering pleasures, the taste of a thousand nights. And the sixth sense, that brings us out of this body into what is not seen, not heard, beyond touch, a quest into what cannot be explained, though the spirit knows what is coming to pass.
Very nice.
That's it.
Okay. My
Yes.
Sometimes I forget to just focus on the basics of breath, of what I feel, what my skin feels at the moment, of what the big toe on my right foot feels as I sit here in front of my home office desk. I wiggle my toes now, suddenly conscious of the neglect. I take my foot off the chair's wheeled leg, one of four low pedestals that support me all day long as I strain my eyes on digital screens.
Mm.
Edge of the chair's leg, where I place my foot on it, has a blunted tip which makes for an improvised acupressure tool for the sole of my foot. I find myself shifting my foot about, finding that edge of pain and pleasure, sometimes hitting the right spot that shoots an almost electric shockwave up my spine and then settles into a warm, creeping sensation that reach through my arms and my fingertips, making me melt and give me the urge to crumple down and be a fuzzy pink duvet cover and close my eyes. There is so much more joys of the senses, like the faint smell of roses, the pink, yellow, violet, red, orange bunches of Jubilee roses at the Rose
Mm.
Garden in Paddington Recreation Park. It is spring when we wrote this, and they are abloom. When I go near them, the distinct smell of roses don't really overwhelm. They caress. And the time writing ended there with my blunt ending.
But for me, it makes me think about, oh, the hopefulness of spring, right? Because you talk
Yeah,
about roses and moving through the market and looking
yeah,
what
and
else is coming from the earth, right?
and
Mm.
yeah, we'll talk about that. I guess it's different with the four seasons that we didn't have growing up. I just feel it's more marked in terms of these changes in where I am now, or where you are, where I am now in
Location.
London and where you are now in Toronto. So going to that same spot in the park where there's a rose garden, and then we are able to kind of observe it from the same bench over
Mm.
different seasons.
Yeah.
Um, it triggers all these sensations. Well, yeah, basically the different senses, right? Seeing the flowers bloom in spring, but also how, as we speak now, it's winter. They're all just dried up. They don't have the
Yeah.
blooms, right?
Mm.
And then they cut it off at some point, the gardeners do. So I think it makes for fresher blooms, right? You know.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
they're
It
all just
encourages the
dry
growth.
right now, and everything else too, even the trees, it's just all twigs
Mm.
and branches that you see, no greens. But then the next season brings you all these springing forth of greens, and then the flowers come and it bursts in color, plus
Yeah.
then the fragrances. Just saying that, and this becomes quite predictable through the years as you observe it. But we had our own versions of that, right? In the dry and wet season back home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess here it's just more marked because they really die. Ours is just the lush is there all year long, if you think about it. Whether it's summer and it's hot and dry, or it's the rainy season, there's a constant
Mm.
greenness and lushness to it. Here, when it becomes green and colorful, you kind of appreciate it more because it was missing in the previous months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you appreciate the dryness of it because suddenly you can see the inner structure of the trees, the tr-
Mm.
the branches of the trees, and you see all the details of the twigs that are there, which then disappears, not disappears, but get hidden in all the green leaves.
When you talk about the differences between observing the seasons here, where we are now in the Western Hemisphere, as opposed to then where were growing up, I think we are more, as we get older, more appreciative of the things around us and our capability to enjoy the things around us and to notice the changes. Because I remember, a wet and dry season as a kid or even as a young adult, I would just see it as, oh, okay, it's time to go and visit relatives in the province. So that was how I was marking seasons in my head then.
Right, that's right.
The the
It's events that around family and school that marks the seasons for us. Here,
yes,
it's very much about what nature looks like, even the climate feels like.
correct.
But
So I
also,
don't know
as you
if it
said,
was,
becoming more aware of what that means.
yeah,
Changes
I don't know if it is connected to, as you're a young kid or as a young adult, you're more concerned with things that should be happening, right? Because your energy, you're curious in a
Mhm.
different way when you're curious now as an adult, because we have more years, we have like a bank of experience to point it to.
Mm.
So it's a different, the way that I think the way that our brain works now in terms of observing and using our senses are just different. It feels more inward. It feels more um at a at a slower pace, and it feels deeply. To me, it feels more deeply connected to who we are.
And I think that just the way you've described all that was reflected in what you wrote, because you
Mm.
were going through each of the senses, but it was very poetic in the sense that the images you used
Mhm.
were very, yeah, poetic, really. And the one line that really also I was like, "Ooh, that's nice one," is when you use the skin to feel the brush of your
The
lover's
lover's eye.
eyelash and
Yeah.
the cheek, like that's a very detail. That's a very intricate kind of detail of
Mm.
that, but at the same time, of a sensory experience, but also marks such intimacy, right?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
so special that way. And we take such things for granted, I think, when you're in the heat of all that passion. But really, as they say later on, when you kind of look back
Yeah.
um, at experiences like that, these are the small things that surface from the memory, right?
Mm.
These
Yeah.
kinds of details that can become quite special.
It does. It does.
The senses. But I guess that's what mindfulness is telling us to really at the bottom line there is being mindful of the now, of what you're
Mm.
experiencing. So whether it's taking a walk outside, breathing the air, what do you hear? Do you hear the birds singing, or do you hear a car passing, or just silence?
Mm.
Um, when you get to wherever you're going, whether it's a park or a place of work, what is it? What are your senses telling you? What are you experiencing? Mm.
Yeah.
So being the mindfulness really is about that, right? Focusing on the now,
Mm. Yeah.
the joys of the five senses, including the sixth one too. You get
Yeah. The intangible, what
or
becomes more powerful when you integrate all your senses. So it becomes fully, you're
yeah,
fully aware now of everything. And so your
the
brain
sixth.
is
This is that what it is? The sixth sense. All right.
yeah.
With that, wishing you the joy of the five senses
Yeah. Go out and explore on your own. Find one
and
which,
and maybe
an
also try some
experience.
liminal writing and do a 10-minute time writing. See
Yeah.
the line, the joy of the five senses will bring up for you
And
and
if you're so inclined, send us a note.
share it with
Uh,
us. Happy to hear. Until the next liminal writing session. See ya.
bye.
Bye.